in the den of iniquity. Vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment. What a pity. Tomorrow never certain. What dwells behind the curtain? The face of evil smirking with the shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble that either pop or topple. Many will fall and stumble. Let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso. Cannon could reach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. Hey, I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners. Yes, 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 indeed. Ladies and gentlemen. How is everyone doing? How is Joan doing?
Hey, hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Been having a pretty good week. Getting shit done. You know how it goes.
Pretty good week. Okay. Not catching any viruses?
No. Yeah,
Okay.
I know. Yeah, last week was like weird, but like I was feeling under the weather for like 48 hours and I was knocked it out. But it like definitely led into Wednesday. So it's like, okay, I just need a day off.
Gotcha. So, ladies and gentlemen, today we are asking a question about beauty standards. Well, we're talking about standards in general, and then standards being a kind of consensus. And if the consensus is made by the wrong group of people, then it's a racist consensus. Is that not correct? Are we done? Can we close? Can we go home now?
Yeah, done. Close the book.
Exactly. Again, consensus, a standard, a yardstick, something with which to measure. We come up with it. We say a foot is a foot, 12 inches in a foot. We standardize it. However, there's something about the particular group, right? Whose standards we use, and that's what makes the standards racist or not. In other words, that's the structure of the argument, generally speaking, would you say? Or are we missing something here?
I think I would agree. I mean, you know, as far as like how standards work, like, yeah, someone sets the standards, but it's up to the people to decide if they want to follow that standard. I mean, you don't have to agree with it, right? You don't have to agree with anything, whether it's good or bad. Yeah.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as usual, we're going to be reviewing a video. Okay, we're going to be reviewing a video on this particular topic, and the topic is one that we've kind of seen out there. There's a lot of talk about body positivity, right? There's a lot of talk about these standards that we operate by in the world. In other words, there's a lot of focus on what we shall call social constructs. Wouldn't you say, Joan? That kind of a thing?
Yes.
What do you have to say about social constructs and our recent focus on it, generally speaking?
Yeah, social constructs. Yeah, that terminology has been tossed around quite a bit lately. I mean, I don't know, unless I'm missing something, but it's definitely a word that everybody uses now.
When you're not a fan?
I just feel like everyone uses it as an excuse now. Like everything is a social construct, you know, like me wanting to put my hair up today, that's a social construct.
All right. So we're going to get into it. We're going to get into the social construct question and other questions, ladies and gentlemen. And I think some of us are already familiar with the arguments. I don't know what's going on in the chat right now, but I'm sure some people already have their minds made up, right? Some are like, you know. Some have popcorn, some are waiting for but as usual, okay? As usual, while we can only take a slice of these things at a time, right? But
we look at the slice objectively. Like I said, I came up here and I said that standards exist and these standards are consensus, right? And
Mm-hmm.
generally speaking, it's not everybody, it's a particular power, a group in power that decides what the goals are and then what the means and the standards of measurement are. Fine, we all agree with that, right? When in Rome, you do it the Roman way, when in this, that, and the other, right?
Yeah.
But somehow we can look at standards, and if they're coming from the wrong place, from a place where we say, oh, these people have been historically bad, bad people and their standards are bad standards. Bad people and their standards are standards that should not be held to, regardless of what you're doing, even if it's science, engineering, or judging beauty. There's something tainted about the standards that you inherit from the great oppressor. Goes the argument. And there may be some tongue in cheek in there and so on and so forth, but that's an attempt to steal man. But my whole diatribe here is about, yeah, we're going to take only a particular slice as usual, but we're looking at it for what it is. We're not out here dismissing it like, oh my God, here are these crazy people saying this thing again. Like, we're going to hold them to their own words, aren't we, Joan?
Oh, yes. Yes.
All right. And as
We're not
usual, let me
always
know if
here.
that audio works when I start playing.
Okay.
Beauty is subjective. There are so many factors that come into play when it comes to beauty, such as culture, tribes, country, time of living. For Asians, people desire white skin. Meanwhile, for Westerners, people desire tan, dark skin. In the 19th century, teeth blackening in Japan was considered beautiful, whereas now, it's all about having white teeth. In Fiji, traditionally, women with larger bodies are considered beautiful, but in the modern world, it's all about being skinny. It's so important to remember that the beauty standard is constantly changing because there will always be new.
So hold on a second. There was something that caught my attention. Did you notice how he compared Fiji and then he said the modern world? Like he picked Fiji's an island, right?
It was, yeah. Yeah,
So
he
it's
was
like in
very
Fiji this
selective.
happens, but in the modern world, it's like that's kind of a weird. You went from a place
Yeah.
designation to a time designation. I'm already kind of
It
I
already
can't
sounds
help
very
but notice
biased.
things. I don't know. Any thoughts so far?
Yeah, I mean, like it sounds like, I mean, just from what he's done so far, it sounds like he's trying to be fair, right? Like, okay, this culture thinks this, but then that culture thinks that. But the way the comparisons are made, I don't think it's fair because again, time periods are different too, So it's I think it sounds like he's trying to fit things to suit his narrative, pick and choose to, how to do that. They pick and choose things and then they fit it into their narrative, whatever they're trying to talk about.
Okay. At the risk of getting, because this is the point of the whole the standard, and what a standard is something that is arbitrary, and that's I want to make sure that that point is clear, right? A standard means you have arbitrarily set a goal, a way of measuring, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's arbitrary. A millimeter is arbitrary. It could be this or that. You call it whatever you did, but as long as you stick to it, that's why it's called a standard. Then you're fine. Then you can go here and there and measure distances, and we'll be fine, right? This exists for aesthetic concerns. 100% correct, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a leap that people tend to do in this particular junction right now, which is that they think that these things are just kind of these aesthetic concerns and these standards that we have, we could just jump in and out of them. Like somehow, and also that there's somebody out there sketching it out by, shall we say, volition, consciously. Right? In this case, it would be the white man consciously out there kind of telling everybody what they should consider beautiful. And everybody willing or able to just kind of, in other words, you're in the stew, you're boiling in the stew. You can't be like, oh, it's that guy that's cooking it and I can jump out of it. I don't know if what I'm saying is clear here. Standards are there, but there's a certain thing when people start pointing to, oh, these standards are of this sort, coming from this direction, and I should not take it on. I don't even think it's possible to point to the source or that you can escape. Any thoughts on that?
No, I think I'm following, right? I mean, obviously, if you're like a minority or something, and then there's a majority that sets the standard, then you're obviously going to have an opinion about this standard. Where if you're the minority in this majority, your opinion isn't really going to match the majority. If that's what you're trying to say. I mean, it's like me Filipino going to Germany and, you know, they have certain standards of living that is not aligned with my Filipino culture. So how can I, you know, be offended by them having these standards where it's like, that's where they're from, that's their culture, that's like, this is their country, you know? So like, why do I feel like I have to, you know, like have them, you know, why do I feel entitled that they cater to like how I feel, you know, my feelings. I think that's what you're trying to say, right?
Yes, that is an aspect. That's something that falls directly from it. Yes, the whole, well, I'm entitled to kind of pick and choose and blame and shame and be like, okay, how about my offering on it? It's like, no, well, this is McDonald's. You don't get to say what you want on the menu. You can shop somewhere else, but you don't get to talk shit about McDonald's all the rest of your life because, you know, they don't adhere to your aesthetic judgments, you know? So there are many, and what is on the screen there? If you don't mind reading what the person says there, it's a key.
So from Miles Nevison, weird how beauty is considered subjective, yet ugly tends to be universal.
Good. This is an interesting thing. It's also in the sense that also when you talk about morality, which is something that gets into contention as well when it comes to subjectivity. Oh, these people over here consider this and that people. But when it comes to what's bad, right? It tends to be universally accepted that being in a dungeon with your skin getting eaten off by mites for like 10 years and then you die, you know, that's bad. Everyone tends to be able to agree sometimes, you know, on an extreme, right? Especially on the bad side. We all tend to kind of know what is undesirable. When it passes then and, you know, on this other level is where things can be like, oh, okay, well, maybe this and maybe that, and so on and so forth. But that just came to mind with what was said. But any other thing before we continue with the video here? I think this is going to be interesting because so far, yes, you said, I think he's being fair and he's saying that, look, there are standards that have come from these different places. We're not so satisfied with his demarcation, but sure, he's not a scientist. We're not gonna, but I'm keeping it aware of that, right? I know that this is the kind of person who just throws data together to fit a narrative without necessarily trying to be clean about it. But so far, so good. Now let's see. Well, what's the big deal? So what? You know, some people like it rare. Some people like it well done. So what? So let's see what the big deal is.
Okay.
Trends. There will always be a new version of beauty. There was even a time where being skinny was not pretty and people desired to gain weight. What a time to be alive. Today's beauty standard is having a slim face, defined jawline, thin nose, big lips, flawless skin, no signs of acne, no signs of aging, no stretch marks, no cellulite, no scars. Asians desire white skin, meanwhile Westerners want dark tan skin, tall hourglass body, and a flat stomach, meanwhile having large breasts, large hips, and a large butt. Basically a Bratz doll. But this universal beauty standard goes way back to internalized racism, ideologies, and colorism due to the colonization of the Western world. This is...
All right. So, are we following so far? Can you bring us along, Joan? Have you followed so far, and what do you have to say about it?
Yeah. I mean, again, it's, you know, he's trying to be fair where he talks about, like, you know, okay, yeah, Asians desire light skin, whereas Westerners desire dark skin. And then, you know, okay, yeah, that's fair, right? I mean, but now he's trying to bring in this whole like Western colonization thing. I mean, I need to kind of like hear a little bit more, but you know, it's like, okay, now all of a sudden it's the Western thing. The Western thing's bad. Western's bad. You know, Western colonization is just bad. Like that's already like what it sounds like, the way he's trying to, like, you know, create that narrative that, yeah, Western colonization bad.
Yeah, Western colonization, and then also, okay, and we're gonna stop here. We're gonna pause here for a second to, shall we say, give thanks and praise to Blind Guy, his wife, their life, for the $20 super chat. Yes, you're always sponsoring the show. Maybe you're the permanent sponsor of the show. Maybe I need to just put your @ in every title. Thank you very much for the super chat. Says salute to Ike, Joan, and the chat. So let's stay here for a second, because there's that whole thing about, well, the Western, or shall we say any kind of form of conquest or colonization, whether it be through guns or through culture or whatever, involves you transmitting some of your standards and your whatever, right, to the people that are conquered, right?
Mhm.
And the idea of conquest is not a new one. Let's just kind of say that kind of obvious thing, right? And also, what is often considered Western culture is in a great deal what I tend to call Mediterranean culture, meaning is this Mediterranean Sea, a very special spot in the world, because it kind of, down there you got Africa, okay, and you gotta have that kind of Middle East, Israel, whatever, which is still in the continental plate of Africa. But and then you got Europe and you got all these other things. In other words, where the Romans and the Phoenicians and the Greeks and order can continually fight and conquer each other, right?
Mhm.
That's what we tend to. The result of all that is what we tend to call Western culture, right? In other words, it's not even a white thing,
I know.
nor is it a kind of a. In other words, people look at the blink of an eye. It's almost like they look at the first letter on a book that's this thick, right? In terms of recency, in terms of you just look back a few hundred years and you're like, oh my God, this, it's like, no, this kind of cross pollination and this and that and passing the ball from one person to the next, cultural appropriation, conquest, and so on and so forth has been going on since forever, right? And that is one thing I think that is not necessarily mentioned in this kind of attribution of particular blame to the most recent person on top of in front of the TV screen or something. Does any of that make sense?
I think so. I mean, I think there's just this generalization that colonization was all done by white people, right? And so therefore the white people set the standards for the whole world, which, you know, I think is bullshit, but it's just what the premise sounds like from this guy.
Okay, so let's continue. Let's see how he continues to weave this all together. Because so far we got standards, and so far we have that the recent standards are, here's something we did not comment on. He talked about he talked about the standards in a way, okay, that make it
Mhm.
seem, oh my God, they're crazy and impossible, right?
Mhm.
What do you think about that? Because that was definitely part of what he was doing, right? He wasn't just saying, oh, because before he was just saying, oh, the standard is this, and then some people like this, but then it was like, and then the music changed, and it's like,
Unrealistic.
today you got to be this and this and this and this, all while being this, 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 this. What do you have to say about that?
Let's not forget there's something called Photoshop. And yeah, when they say unrealistic, right? I mean, do you really think that that's how these people really look like? Heck no. You know, we all know they get photoshopped. They get CGI'd. I don't know, but at the end of the day, it's like, you know, they're present. You know, these people, you know, companies, corporations, they present, you know, a person, you know, modeling their makeup, their clothes, whatever. That's just the way it is. You know, you don't have to feel offended by like how that person looks because you don't look like that person. But again, you know, it's really, yeah, I mean, do you agree, whether you agree or not with the standard, like you don't have to be affected by it. You don't have to say like, oh well, they're putting this standards, you know, as a beauty like this, but does that mean I have to do it? Does that, me personally, like I don't have to feel like I have to look that way, you know? This is just the way they're presenting it.
Okay, well, somebody will look at you now and they will say, fine. And you know what? Let me even do it. Let me play devil's advocate here. I'm gonna be like, hey, Joan, I'm gonna use that word that people like to use. I say you're being disingenuous. Why? You see, what people consider to be beauty out there is, to the majority average person to whom beauty is important. Let's say to the average woman, for example, because beauty is more important to a woman than a man, right? Hopefully, I'm not saying anything crazy, right? We can agree that it's more important for a woman to feel beautiful, right, than for a man to feel beautiful, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, to that person that you're telling, oh, you don't have to accept the standard, you're like, hey, Joan, you're crazy, okay? Beauty is about what other people think.
Oh,
Okay?
yeah.
I don't care when you tell me, oh, I'm beautiful in my soul. It's like, if other people are always looking at that magazine and looking at that woman in that magazine, and I'm nothing like that woman in that magazine, then you, Joan, you got pretty privilege. So what's up with that? How do you push back on that one?
Oh, okay, so I have pretty privilege now. Yeah, I'm trying to like put this into words, but you know, it is, yeah, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And yeah, I can let's say according to the people around me, they don't think side, but maybe I think I'm beautiful on the inside. And it's really all about how we feel about ourselves, right?
No, Joan, no, you're full. You're full of it. You would know. You're full of shit right now. She's looking at you dead in the face, Joan, and she's like, "Hey, you can say all that stuff about the other standards that I could have. This is the equivalent of me talking about you trying to hover up to the mountain, right?"
Mhm.
And I'm like, dude, majority of people don't live up in the mountain of abstraction, okay? The real world and average people around here that actually are consuming these kinds of videos that we review are the type of people for whom, no, beauty is what other people say, and it's not crazy because that is, and after all, it is a standard, right? And you can say, oh, well, people should not be fooled by advertising. Can I get a one in the chat if it makes sense? Because people may say, oh, well, you should not be fooled by advertising. Advertising and marketing is billions and billions of dollar industry because it works, regardless of whether you think it doesn't work on you or not. In other words, whatever the standard is or whatever it's being, shall we say, pushed, another word people like to use, pushed out there, right? In magazines, in the billboards, in the movie theaters. And this woman is looking at you and say, hey, that's what people think is beautiful. And where I live, what they think is what's important, Joan. What do you say to that? You could just say yes. I mean, you could just agree that she's right. You don't have to defend this. You could run.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what if that's what you want to believe, that's fine.
So now the belief thing. I mean, look, it's like let me put it to you. You're in business, right? It's the clients.
Yeah.
What the clients say matter. You can't be like, oh, that's the kind of music I want to play in my wedding. It's like, no, what the people doing the wedding, the music they want, and the kind of ambience and whatever that's what it is. Who cares that they got it from the magazines, right?
Right.
I mean, what would you advise? I mean, if you bring it now down to that kind of more, perhaps a separate kind of, how do you maneuver in the marketplace when there's standards out there about what people should like, and maybe you're more, you're an artiste with your taste and the way you deliver your product, your service, your software, whatever it may be. How do you then maneuver that? Don't you just go ahead and give the people what they want or try to adapt to them? Or do you go into your little space and say, oh, well, beauty is just what I think?
I mean, okay, yeah. Unfortunately, it is what it is. There are beauty standards. Unfortunately, like not everybody agrees with the beauty standards, and it is what it is. And being an artist, musicians type, like I've definitely come across where it's like, okay, image matters, and so I show up to a gig like more dolled up than usual and wearing something cool just to like fit that image of that musician, and it's. Yeah, I mean, like now I'm like remembering like all these stories about like image in the entertainment industry, and it is what it is. Either like if you're in it, you do your part and do your job. Oh, hold on, do I need to swap out my battery? Oh, it went back on. Okay, but yeah, like if you want to, obviously, if like you want to keep doing what you do, a musician, you have to keep up with some sort of standard, but at the end of the day you go home and you do what you want. But like sometimes you do what you can to fit in to get the job done, but it is what it is. I mean,
so life is not fair, right?
Yeah, of course.
And when it comes to standards, when it comes to the world of arbitrariness, right, sometimes we wish that we were the kings of the universe that could tell everybody what they should like. So that would be my pushback to this lady, right? So I played the devil's advocate, right? I was the lady telling you, hey, Joan, all that stuff about, well, the standards don't matter. That's crazy. I see what people like. I see what sells in magazines. I see what the top, shall we say, Instagram photos are, right? And that's what people want. And these are the clients. And you, no matter what this is where I live. You can go up there in your monastery where you meditate and live your minimalist life. Okay. I'm just a regular woman, that kind of a thing.
Right.
After you admit that what she's saying is true, the other thing is you can then tell her, is like, look, life does not owe you understanding, or there's no fairness, and so on and so forth, right? And what you want is to be the king of the universe and tell everybody else to switch to a standard to meet your particular needs, right? I was born with, 7 toes or something. Hence, I want 7 toes now to be this. If you don't have 7 toes, I want people to start chopping off 3 of their toes to meet the new beauty standard. Is what you play the card you're dealt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, easy for a guy to say, because let me say this at this point. Guys have more movement potential when it comes to okay, so first of all, about 2/3 of your ancestors are women. I don't know if you knew that, Joan, but
I guess not.
but if I were to tell you this way, more women get to reproduce than men, would you be surprised?
Wait, what?
More women can more women can reproduce than men, and they've done that all through history.
Okay.
You got a large percentage of men who just never quite make it. That makes sense to you, right?
Yeah.
And it's also kind of just true. 2/3 of our ancestors are women. That's not crazy, plus polygamy and all this kind of stuff. There's no need to think too hard about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
you look at the guys that women want. It's not. Yeah, come on. It's not. It's barely. It's not 50% of men. More like 20% of men. But anyways, point is, as a man though, I can't be saying all these things easily about, oh well, just play the hand you're dealt. Because as a man, there's several avenues I can move into. Okay, there is the money, there is the status, there is then the looks, which you can try to maximize. And however, generally speaking, for a man, the money and the status, it tends to outweigh the looks, depending on how you're negotiating, right? And what's going on. So it's easy for a guy to just be like, oh, well, that's the luck of the draw. But I don't think that a man can actually understand what that, let me use it's even hard to say, what does an ugly woman feel like, Joan?
What is an ugly? I definitely had my moments in life where I felt like an ugly person, especially when I was growing up, like, just not maturing yet, like haven't bloomed yet. And yeah, you feel all kinds of insecurities looking at yourself in the mirror, trying to figure out like, oh, what can I do to look better? Or like when is my face going to grow into my body kind of thing. But that was my childhood. And yeah, I mean, unfortunately, yeah, beauty standards exist. Whether you maybe like me, I just think everything's beautiful, but yeah, I mean, according to like commercial standards, I mean, it exists. And what can I say to someone who feels ugly? Well, it's going to take work. You can't just undo those feelings like overnight and suddenly they feel beautiful. But we live in modern society where there are ways you can enhance your look somehow. You can makeup and
put a
like
thing in your pocket, for example.
I mean, there's makeup. You can do your hair. You can dye your hair. You can get a tan. You can pluck your eyebrows. I mean, there's things you can do to make yourself feel better. At the end of the day, yeah, I mean, it is about making yourself feel better. That's what everybody wants. They just want to feel better about themselves. I mean, not everyone's going to make you feel better, but it comes down to you making yourself feel better and being happy with what you look at in the mirror. I mean, I went through that where it took me some time to be happy with what I saw in the mirror.
Good. So that's why I like to have these conversations, okay? Because for me, it's not about the position you land on. It's about the freedom to be able to dance on this particular dance floor. It's like some people are like, that dance floor is closed. That is the third rail. That's not politically correct. That kind of a thing. It's like, it's not about whether you say, oh, well, I'm going to be on the side of continually trying to get people to move to my standard, or I'm going to be on the side of just playing the card I'm dealt, moving around, making myself feel better from the inside, as you mentioned, or I'm maximizing my pretty privilege out here, whatever it may be. But as long as we can all recognize, okay, the standard is out there, okay, it changes. It's recently coming from this particular demographic right now. It's not fair, so on and so forth. Just like the rest of things of life are not fair, is my whole point, generally speaking, in having any of these conversations. So let's continue, because I think that he has given us much to kind of ponder here, just with the very beginning of the video. And we haven't even gone into the white supremacy yet.
is a time of racial supremacy that dehumanized people of color. The white colonists taught our forefathers that our race is inferior. We are told that white is best, white is beauty. Europeans took away different versions of beauty from people of color and their cultures. After the Korean War in 1950s and early 1960s, American military doctors performed double eyelid surgery to fix the oriental eyes of Native patients. The American troops performed this surgery on Korean women for them to be considered more attractive to the eyes of American troops.
What the are you doing?
The American troops did this on Korean men because their squinting eyes meant that the Americans couldn't trust them.
Why don't you go build something or go die in a war like a man's job is?
And it was around this time the plastic surgery obsession in Korea began and people wanted to look more Caucasian. Before 1940, only white women were allowed to join the Miss America pageant. With globalization and the media, Eurocentric and Caucasian features dominate the world. People of color are pressured to subject themselves to Eurocentric beauty standards.
Slave women were bred and created children, and the children became lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. And that the mother herself was often left out in the field.
Why is that doll pretty?
Because she's white.
Why is that?
Yes. And by the way, I think like many other sociology or psychology experiments, that video that you're watching where because there's why. Anyways, a lot of that stuff is BS. Okay, a lot of stuff is BS that's out there. However, there's something that's interesting though. In India, okay, people want to be lighter. The Arabs, it was said that, kind of on purpose, bred themselves into being light, right? If that kind of makes sense, given where they're from, and you expect, okay, they're going to be black over there in that desert. But I think they were doing something on purpose with some other people, right? So let's go up to the mountains, Joan. So basically what I'm saying is this: is there something objectively, shall we say, attractive about the light?
Is there something? It really depends where you're. I don't know. I mean, it really depends where you come from. Like we've had this conversation before. I think when we were doing that pretty privileged talk, like, people admire what's unique, what's different from them, like admire or jealous or whatever. I mean, it happens, right? Like being from the Philippines, where there's different cultures in the Philippines. There's like obviously the ones that tend to look darker, and there's the ones that tend to look lighter. And thing is, like the light skinned ones can get dark, and it's like an obsession about being lighter. Obviously, yeah. I mean, the whole colonization thing, yes, definitely, I do agree that it has some effect to it. But at the end of the day, it's like, you have the choice to carry on these standards if you want to. But back to like admiring light or color. I mean, I don't know. I mean, for me, it's either or, but that's just me, like me being up in the mountains, like it's either or. I mean, I've found like, different colors of the rainbow.
Okay. So let me ask you again. Okay. Because I didn't ask. Okay. Let me ask it this way. Could there be, because here's what I'm saying, John. I'm saying that there's such things as the sun rising, that every mammal likes and every plant likes. Yeah, we're going high up to the mountain. Okay. That there's something about light, right?
Symbolically, yes. Yeah. There's,
and it's all over the place. You want to pick up pieces of literature. You want to pick up religions. You want to pick up pieces of pop psychology. That white, right? Now, because what people may want to do at this juncture is to say that all that white stuff and white is good was somehow injected in your head through, 200 years ago or something. It's like, hold up. Let's try to maybe go find a deeper source, and then let's remove that one at least and say, okay, cool. There is something about light that people just kind of prefer. Okay. But then let's remove that, and then let's start talking about the stuff that's in the magazines, if you will. So
Mhm.
would you agree that there's something about that sunrise, that light, all that visions and all the words that have been put into poetry and mythology and so on and so forth about the
Mhm.
light that
Mhm.
has nothing to do with racism, right?
Right. I mean, it's a, like a worldwide thing. Everybody admires the sunlight. Everybody admires the moonlight. The stars shining. They're all shining bright and white.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just wanted us to get there. Again,
Okay.
as I said, it's not about what you do with the room. I just want to illuminate the room that we're in, rather than people acting like dude, there's the light. Okay, don't forget that exists and that is part of your psyche, right? When you
Mhm.
start looking at everything that maybe it's the light and it's white, it must be racist. Like, dude, come on, chill.
But
There are
here's
aspects to things in the world. Go
here's
ahead.
where it probably happened, right? So everyone admires white and light, shining bright, and then there happens to be a species of human with white skin. Like, oh my God, I'm white, so I must be
Yeah,
as
and then if you were
heavenly
that guy
as
with the light skin, and then you start lording it over the people,
it's like I'm
using
white.
anyway, there are many ways. In other words, I was trying to find some objective something that we could point to objective, and I think that's one thing. And it may
Yeah.
not, the degree to which it causes or correlates with the topic is a different thing. However, I wanted to point that out. If you don't mind reading what Snuggles has to say, shout out to Snuggles, the $5 super chat monarch in the building.
Snuggles. When it's white, it's right in black eyesight. That's what it looks like to me because each culture does not want to enhance their own beauty except one.
So I would let me first of all interpret what I think the question is saying, beginning with the end part of the question. There's this one culture that wants to change to become lighter, right? And to be perhaps the darker people, right? Or to try to become more of this particular standard. Well, number one, if like somebody else mentioned that the most recent colonizers were white, the most recent holder of this particular football or whatever, and then get to set particular standards of whatever were white, then it's not crazy that the people out there, the producers of the beauty are looking at the marketplace, as we've said, and say,
Right.
hey, this is what the market wants. So that's one aspect. But there's another aspect, okay, to be honest. There are other things that were mentioned about the beauty standard, about the full lips and so on, that have nothing to do with Caucasian people, right?
No.
Can I get a one in the chat, ladies and gentlemen, if we recall what he enumerated? Because we can go back and talk about today's beauty standard that he talked about. He mentioned light skin, but he also talked about that the white people want to be tan, right? Okay. So the skin color aspect even was not even but many of those things with the full lips and the curves and this and that has nothing to do with, being a German. It might be a little Russian, which is something else, this kind of Asiatic thing. And then we're going to get into also the exotic aspect of things. But so Snuggles, I hear what you're saying, but there is a whole other aspect which people also say too, which is, hey, that the standards of beauty are Kylie Jenner. And what is Kylie Jenner trying to be? Kylie Jenner is not trying to look like a white woman.
No.
Right? So that also is there. And if I assume that makes sense. There are people who are right in front of your face in those magazines, in public, that are selling all this kind of stuff, doing the thing which says, hey, I'm trying to have this standard of beauty, and most of which has nothing to do with that light-skinned aspect. But moving on, what do we have K Polymath saying here? Do you mind reading that, Joan?
Yeah, so K Polymath. White people didn't invent colorism. Lighter for females is just generally better in the zeitgeist. White people just set their norm and propagated it.
Okay, so here's another thing about lighter, okay, because remember I talked about the sun. We were high up in the mountain and we talked about the sun. And before we were even human beings and why there's something about light. When we come lower down into the mountains from there's sociology, there is work, you know where I'm getting at, right? If you're working out in the farms, if you're dark, right, generally speaking, people are, you're out there, hustling and getting your hands dirty and that you're not dainty and you're not delicate. So let me put it this way. There's another objective thing I can say about what we call beauty. And this one is a little shaky. Okay, I'm not saying it absolutely because it's kind of, but I think that we find things that are delicate to be beautiful. I mean by that, let's say a flower. a puppy, even a crystal, or some delicately balanced figurine or acrobatic whatever standing on the tiptoe. There's something about delicacy that we find beautiful. Okay.
Mhm.
And also with women too, okay, it's also part of the package. You want generally the softer sex or whatever. And so delicacy also tends to go on planet Earth with not being out in the sun getting burnt. Right. So that's another kind of thing that plays in maybe in other places as to, well, why is everybody trying to be lighter? Is it, well, it's not just one aspect. There are many aspects to it. But before we continue playing the video, what you got for us, Joan? Any thoughts?
Any thoughts? Yeah, I think it's funny when you like look to nature. You're comparing the flower, like the delicate, light, and like gentle, and then you compare it to like ballerinas. Yeah, it's interesting where when you look to nature, obviously like animals and things like that, like they don't really look at color or whatever, but do they admire things the same way as humans do? And obviously not. But I think for us humans, like when we look at delicate things, we see it, like I think we collectively see it as beautiful. Like we all collectively see a flower as beautiful. I mean, I think I could probably say 99% of people think flowers are beautiful. So I think when majority of people look at the same thing, agree what it is, and then we compare it to everything else around us. I mean, I guess I can see why certain standards come to be, but I mean, that's oh,
okay. Well, let's we're weaving a complicated narrative. Let's go with a simpler narrative and just see what's gonna happen here with the racism.
It's all ugly.
He's black.
And why is that the nice doll?
He's white.
And why does that look bad?
Because it's black.
And why do you think that's a nice doll?
Because she's white. I just don't like the way brown looks, because the way brown looks really nasty for some reason, but I don't know what reason. That's all.
I like light-skinned women. I want you to be lighter than me. I love African-American women, but I just don't like my skin complexion.
So if you have a baby, you don't want your baby to be the same complexion as you? Why?
It's a dark ass shade. They be hell nah.
I'm so ugly. What?
Maybe you are.
Oh, you gonna make me cry.
Black is beautiful, and if don't nobody ever tell you, I will tell you, you are gorgeous.
पूरा मेरा डॉक्यूमेंट सब कुछ अच्छे थे, but because of उन लोगों ने मुझे रिजेक्ट कर दिया कि फेयरनेस होगा तो मेरे को कोई बेटर अच्छा जॉब.
One of my teacher bullied me when I was in like class 3rd or 4th. I was just a child. I don't know that I have a dark tone and all.
For so long, people of color were told to whiten their skin, whether through bleaching or lightening products. Very often, Asian girls are told off by their own parents that they're too dark for playing out in the sun, or that...
Okay, Joan, we're going to grill you a little bit here. I think that you have...
I have life experience.
You got that Asian background, so tell us, what's this thing about being light? And why do you guys walk around with those hats? And why do your white BMWs always have the thing, the shade that's covering you guys while you drive down the 405 in Orange County? Why,
That's
Joan?
so
Tell
hilarious.
us about this Asian stuff.
Okay, so there's different Asians, right? There's not just, the Chinese, the Japanese, Koreans. There's the Filipinos, there's the Indonesians, Malaysians. They're kind of, when it comes to colorism, there's two different groups, right? In Asian culture, and then obviously there's India and all that. So that's a whole other. I mean, like it's part of that, right? So when it comes to like my background, right, Filipino, there has been an obsession of being lighter skinned, because I mean, yes, it was colonized by Spaniards. So yes, Spaniards probably traumatized, people, and, they just, hey, we rule you and we're better than you, so you better look like us, kind of thing. So I can see where that comes from. But again, I'm kind of like all the way up in the mountains, so I kind of think of things differently. And yeah, I did grow up with a little bit of that. But the problem is, there's not a Spaniard telling me this anymore. It's me and my peers who constantly rub it into each other's faces. It's a lot of times it's like, being racist toward yourself.
Stop right there. That's good. That's good. Because remember, I mentioned the stew before. I was like, that was one of the points I was trying to make earlier when I said that you cannot point out to this conscious white man scripting out and telling you, because I said, women have been told, or people of color are constantly told to, and it's like, who is telling you?
Right.
There is a lack of accountability with the narrative, or with this whole kind of social construct narrative, that a lot of times it's you telling other people, you listening to other people, you propagating it, you buying those magazines, you following like sheep, right?
Yep, exactly.
It's you.
Yeah, it's totally, on you. Like, yeah, for me, it's like, I grew up in different places. Like, I was born in the Philippines. I was too young to really like think about those kinds of things. Although the whole being lighter was a thing already. Like, I remember having those kinds of like overhearing those conversations as a 6-year-old. Then I moved to Hawaii, where it's just like all kinds of Asians live there. So I definitely start to see it from different cultures, like, how Chinese viewed the Filipinos, how the Koreans viewed the Japanese, and all of that. And then coming to California, where it's a whole other experience. But throughout my whole growing up until my adulthood, there's always been this thing about my own kind, my own like Filipinos telling me that I need to look like this. It wasn't the bad Spaniard telling me I need to look white. It was my own kind, my own people telling me that I need to look a certain way. I need to be this tall. I need to be skinny. Oh, you're getting too skinny now. Like, I can go on and on about all these like dreaded stories about like how like I grew up thinking like, man, Filipinos just really hate themselves. I married a white tall guy, and one of my aunts came up to him on my wedding day and said, "Hey, you're improving our race." I'm like, what the true story, man. I was like so embarrassed.
Your aunt was throwing it back. She wanted some of that DNA too, or something.
I have more stories about that, but like, so I just came to this conclusion, like, Filipinos hate themselves, but again, they do it to themselves. There's no Spanish guy, white guy telling them you got to look this way anymore. It's them just, propagating, keeping it alive, keeping the colorism alive, But it's crazy.
Okay, so here's what tends to happen, right? So far, we've said that, hey, you're not going to find that guy that's telling you this, that it is you doing that. And you only have two choices. One is to go up to the hills and live with Joan, where it doesn't matter, where you look at life in a particular way, right? You take the red pill, if you will. You take the red pill and you're like, hey, these are all just parameters and givens. I slide up here, I move this here, I duck, I move, I bob and weave, right? That kind of a thing. Or you just accept that it's not an external force that causes sheep to be sheep. Let me say that again. Everything that goes on in sheepland, right? So if you go up to Joan with the mountains, okay, you guys are gonna think about things your way. You're gonna do Joan type thing. You guys are gonna take responsibility. When you come down to sheepland, everything that happens in sheepland is because of sheep.
Yeah.
It's not anybody else doing the sheep to you.
Yeah.
The things that sheep care about and the things that sheep buy is because of other sheep. And if you're one of the sheep, you need to shut up already. Okay, it's either you stop being sheep or you just admit that everything that's going on in sheepdom is because of you and your fellow sheep. And you guys are constantly rubbing into each other all the craziness, all the ridiculousness, all the neuroticism, which kind of, shall we say, describes human nature all through history. Like, people are always looking for, well, it's those people that cause war, those people that cause poverty, it's those people that cause pain in the world. It's like, no. It's kind of you and me and it's no other power came. Individuals, human beings, and it's been us the whole time, all through history. It's been you and me, right? So if there's something that's going on in a particular cohort of people in a particular level of existence, then it's you guys that is doing it. But not to get too preachy there, but what tends to happen after that? After that, you get the white man or the enlightened white liberal, or shall we say woke person of any particular racial persuasion. They go to the Filipinos or the village in Africa and tell them, oh, you need to liberate yourself. You see, okay, thereby oppressing them.
Are we talking about the white savior now? The white savior?
Exactly. So these people are busy doing sheep stuff. Okay. The white savior feels guilty. Oh my God, they're being sheep. It was because of me. I was the one that made them sheep, which is kind of a delusions of grandeur, right? Only I can make it such that the world is this way. I, the white man, must fix it because, of course, I'm the white man, right? So then you run in telling these people, oppressing them over again. I don't even have to follow the story, okay? Let me get a one if this whole kind of white savior thing makes sense. Can I get a one in the chat? Basically, again, these people are doing this themselves. They're perpetuating the stories. They're perpetuating the narratives themselves. They're being sheep by themselves. You're not there telling them to be sheep. You run to try to come to save them, and then you perpetuate another level of colonization on them right there in present real time, in saying that you want to try to shake them away from their bad ways. Oh, you guys need to come and join feminism, or you guys need to come and join this particular intersectionality, whatever. Your customs or whatever, that kind of a thing. So that's the whole white savior thing. You're getting more and more dark. You're like, if you could turn on a little bit.
Let me see. I need to bring my light closer. Hold on just a sec.
Let's
see if this, I just don't want it to end up blocked.
Do your thing. Okay, shout out, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out to Snuggles in the building. Shout out to Shozan in the house. Shout out to K Polymath in the house. We're talking about standards. Standards are arbitrary. Standards are matters of consensus. Okay, we agree upon them. There are many such standards that are out there. There's the international standard for measurements, like SI units, which are called like millimeters, centimeters, meters, kilometers, all that kind of stuff, right? These are standards, and then we measure things by them. Beauty can also be, let me see if
that, I don't know. Does that help? I brought the
That's
light.
a little better. At least we get a kind of a glow from the back there on the wall. So beauty is a standard, right? Beauty is a standard, but if the wrong people are the ones that the standard looks like, or if the wrong people are empowered, then the beauty. In other words, let me ask you this, Joan. What will be a non-racist standard of beauty? If it were the Filipino standard, would it be less racist? What is the Filipino standard? If you ask the Filipino woman, she says, hey, it's to be white. Are you to tell the Filipino woman that that's not her standard? Help us out here, Joan. What would be a non-racist? What's the outcome we're looking for here?
Oh my God. Okay. So let's start with what I think the Filipino standard of beauty is. I think it's definitely more defined features where you can really see their eyes, their nose, their lips, whatever, but what would be a non-racist standard of beauty? I mean, it's like, what does that even mean?
It simply means that the right people, they're your people, right? If you, Joan, are complaining about a racist standard of beauty, okay? A non-racist standard of beauty is when you get to make the standard. I mean, I think we've repeated this kind of a thing over and over again, but it's a simple kind of postmodernist little loop that works in all their situations. It's just, what will be the what would it be okay, when I'm king, when I get to say the standard, right? When it becomes, or if my group says the standard, my particular intersectional cohort of people that represent me and that I represent, if they get to dictate, then things are no longer racist. If the white man or whomever that is kind of, maybe today it's the misogynists and male, cis, white, whatever, whomever is you're thinking is in power, if they're the ones that are making the standards, then it's not okay. When I get in power, then it is okay. Because there is no other kind of resolution to any of the arguments here. I don't know if you see it.
No,
perhaps.
not really. I mean, the thing is, okay, so, since we're talking about like white people, colonialism, all that, I mean, yes, it's true that there's definitely a dominance in the entertainment business where, the standards were set by white, light-skinned people. They are the ones that started the film industry. They are the ones that did all the, anything like publications, right? Like a lot of it was definitely pushed forward by the white culture. I don't know. Does that make sense? You know, I mean, like it is what it is. Like Hollywood was started by white people or Jewish people, if you want to be specific, right? But it again, it's really like, you know, they started the film industry, so therefore they started the standards of what Hollywood, you know, beauty looks like, and that's just the way it is. You know, it's here in America. It started here, and then it became worldwide. I mean, you know, I mean, with Europe, I mean, I don't know, I can't really speak for Europe, but like I do find that a lot of Europeans do find, you know, look outside of their own culture because it fascinates them. Like it's something unique, something different, you know. But again, like, is there a solution to beauty standards? I don't think so. Like everyone just has to make up their own mind what their, you know, what beautiful is. Everybody can make up their own mind about that. You don't have to agree what everybody says. But again, that's just me sitting on a mountain, you know,
Okay.
hoping that people make up their own mind.
Let's get down to reality, okay? And let's get tactical for a second here, because we've been talking about standards so far. And the truth is, no one actually likes the standard. Let me hey, the men in the chat, okay?
Hold on just a sec. I think I might fix something. Hold on.
Okay, cool. Meanwhile, let me do a little poll. For the men in the chat, do you guys know what I mean? Will you agree with me when I say that when there is some kind of a standard of beauty, somebody puts it up there in the magazine and says it's this, that, this proportion, blah, blah, blah. Is that your ideal woman? Chances are it is not, right? You like a little bit more extra this over there, and you want a little bit more fluff over there, and you want a little less high over there, more tall over there, less blue over there, whatever it may be. The standard, by the way, is not any particular person's, typically, right? Cup of tea, okay? And that's how standards tend to be. And that's why when people talk about unattainable standards as well, standards are not supposed to be attainable. They're not even supposed to be real. They're supposed to be a direction towards which you move, okay? Again, standards are not supposed to be attainable. They're supposed to be like, oh, well, you know, look up to Christ and try to be like him. Well, you're not supposed to be Christ. Look up to perfection. Look up to the standard. Look up to the ideal. And you're not supposed to be able to ever get there. That's number one. And then number two, the ideal is no one's cup of tea. Okay? So that's the first demarcation I'm making. Okay? And since I'm the guy here, let me continue to break down some of the more simple facts as to how us guys look at the thing. The marketplace, right? The actual marketplace that these women are worried about, the marketplace of people whom are out there consuming the beauty, if you want to put it that way, is men. And number one, that standard you see in the magazine, it's not any one of our cup of tea per se, right? Number two, there's a big difference, and I said this before, between beautiful and hot, okay? And if you don't know where you land on those two as a woman, go find out. Find out if you don't have the beauty thing, if maybe you found out, okay, well, I know something about the standard of beauty. I'm an art student or something, and I do, you know, whatever, drawing the model, whatever. And I think I don't meet the beauty standard, but go find out what the hot standard is, because it's actually quite different. And there are ways, okay? Aaron B knows that Aaron B knows that you could have this very beautiful woman that is not hot, and you could have this very hot woman that is not beautiful. And not to get into the evolution aspect of it or the reasons, the biological reasons why it is so, but we can intuit that, and I think even women understand it. Like, oh, okay, I think I kind of get it. Beauty with this elegance and this other thing and the other thing. And I think before we described it as, you know, hot is hot, you want to tear her apart, you know, and beauty, maybe you want to put her on a pedestal and look at her while you smoke a pipe and talk about, you know, philosophy. So those things are different. So that's another area in which you can kind of, what am I doing here? What I'm saying here is, look, we've been talking about the standards as though it was the most important thing in the world. I'm like, look, if you're a woman out there on the ground, okay, really, it's way, 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 way more aisles, right, in the store that you can fit. It's not just that aisle of standard beauty. Actually, no one is shopping there. The aisle of standard beauty, no one is shopping there. Everyone is shopping in their own little strange corners. You know, that one likes feet that are a little stinky, you know. It's like, you know, before I smell your feet, girl, go run some laps a little bit. or what. I don't know. Look at your face, Joan. That go too far? But people have all kinds of idiosyncrasies when it comes to that kind of a thing. And these things I just mentioned, such as beauty versus hot, other things that I mentioned, such as the people are not shopping in that main line, and that actually the thing that we desire most in people tends to be some kind of exotic, shall we say, the outlier thing, the thing that's kind of off, right? Because take for example, let's say, big booty Keisha, okay? Big booty Keisha in the hood. Say, okay, big booty Keisha, whatever. Doesn't rank so high per se. But if Ling Ling, sorry, Joan.
Oh, why do you say Ling Ling?
If Ling Ling has a big booty, then she's higher up. Booty on Ling Ling gets more purchase than booty on Keisha. All these things, you get what I'm saying, right? It's because Ling Ling is not supposed to have big booty. It's like, oh, people, like all these kinds of people are looking for the thing that is off. People are looking for the things that is exotic, strange, weird. So I'm saying, hey there, ladies, or whatever. There's so many aisles to shop from. That standard beauty aisle is just kind of there as a billboard. That's not where most of the action is going down. But anything you got to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, no matter what, like where you come from, you find something beautiful over like something that's unique, something that doesn't look like you, something that you don't have, and obviously you're fascinated by it, and you either just in awe, you admire it, or you're jealous of it, whatever. But it's just the way the world works. Unfortunately, for those who feel like, beauty standards is something you have to live up to, but really you don't have to. Like, who says you have to live up to these standards? But people just admire what looks different, what looks unique. I mean, I'm sure you feel that way too. Like, I mean, like, what are you? Are you black or are you white?
Oh yeah. That's my in, right? Okay, so I've always practiced the whole use what you can use game, or whatever it may be, to get in there. And I sometimes pressure you to be more like open with your, and I know it hurts and it's hard for you. Like, oh my God, you probably don't even remember facts about your life. Everything's just kind of like an idea,
Mm-hmm.
No shade, Joan, but I get you. I feel you. But let me try to think about like some concrete facts of my life in terms of this aspect, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Look, when you walk in a room and you look different, whether it is because you are a black albino, right? It helps. And then it also helps to be noticed. You add 6'4" on top of that, boom, that's your in. However, the black albino part that I mentioned earlier, okay, that was not always a benefit. That was not always a good thing.
Yeah, like how
As a
was
matter of
that
fact,
for
even
you?
right now, you could say that that's not a good thing. In other words, it's a double-edged sword. Anybody can take that sword right now, or one side of that sword, and use it to attack you, right? And call you all kinds of things, right? 100%, 100%. But at the same time, you take that same sword that can be used to hurt you, and you use it to your advantage. So all kinds of things going on here. Also, when it comes to, let's say, the gift of gab, if you will, right?
Mhm.
Some of us are, shall we say, one-on-one type people. I'm that kind of person, right? I don't like social situations too much, right? Because I think things tend to go down to the lowest common denominator. And I'm an elitist, okay? Let me just put my cards on the table. It's not that I don't like people, but when you have a group of people, things tend to go down to the lowest common denominator. And I ain't got time for lowest common denominator shit. I got better things to do. But if I find someone interesting one-on-one, so on and so forth, in other words, men, when it comes to this whole thing about game, gift of gab, or whatever, you need to know, first of all, where you are better at. If you are the sniper and you get that one, boom, kill, no problem, don't try to be the, oh, let me go get you guys another beer guy. Backslap this and that. Oh, you were there too. No. That's not your lane. Don't even try it. Don't do it. You look stupid and you'll hate yourself for it. But you find your lane, you perfect that one, and you one shot, one kill. That's how you roll. That kind of a thing. So anyways, I think I've gone on and on for a while here. And let me go ahead and play a little bit more of this video here. And shout out fair use to. So this guy, I believe, must be from Indonesia, right? Given the fact that his name is Ibrahim, he must.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It sounds Indonesian.
Okay, yeah, Ibrahim is Muslim. Indonesia be Muslim over there, right? Okay. Fair use.
They're not beautiful because of their dark tone. It has also become so common and normalized for us to want to change our natural features, like our nose and our eyes, so we can appear more Caucasian. This has also led to the rise of African American hair care, such as wigs and straightenings. Yet, ironically, the modern beauty standard is now shifting into the natural features of a Black woman.
Wait a damn minute.
In a world of patriarchy and misogyny, women are identified and valued based on their appearance. Meanwhile, men are praised for their professional success.
Okay. Any reaction so far? We're going to end on this one because when you start sentences with in a world of patriarchy and misogyny, you're like, so I like to take these people seriously at their word. That's one thing, you know, and people are like, oh, well, you know, and like, look, I'm not going to just skate over it. I'm going to ask, is it patriarchy and misogyny that makes women valued for their look? Is that what it is?
You're asking the wrong person because I don't think about those things. I don't,
you know, but I don't think about it either.
Yeah. I mean,
what do you think they're thinking though?
Here's like, I can see. I try to understand all points of view, right? And you know, I can see where this whole patriarchy thing. Like, I can see why you can blame patriarchy as like, oh, they're the ones that set this toxic standards of beauty. Blah, blah, blah. I totally understand that. But is it really that? Is it really that? Or is it also like the women falling for these, you know, toxic standards of beauty? I mean, I don't know if I'm on the right path here, but like, I just don't like doing this whole blame game, like blame it on this collective for, you know, women being objectified and this and that. Like, is it real? Are women really being objected? Like, are majority of women really feeling?
What is objectification of women? What do you think they're saying? What do you think it is?
She's just a toy, or like just something to look at. You know, she's just a piece of ass, and she's just eye candy. You know, like, you know, all those things. I don't know.
Okay, so let me put it this way. Let's say these things that you mentioned. Let's say it's like a plate, right? And you have, okay, a piece of ass, okay, eye candy, okay, this, that, a good time tonight, okay, and then you add other things there, right? Things that you may also kind of maybe find edifying or whatever, okay? What is the proposition? Should I remove, let's say I also respect you for whatever else, right? Do you want me to remove the piece of ass and the eye candy or the good time? Is that what women are saying? I know it's not. It's a rhetorical question. I know all this stuff is bullshit. But what are you telling me to do there with this plate? Should I throw that away, or what do you want?
Yeah, exactly. What do women want, right? Like when they meet a guy, you know, and they want to have a good time. I mean, like, again, there's just the two sides to it, right? Like, yeah, maybe a guy objectifies a woman, but like, does the woman like it? Or maybe she and herself feels empowered by it too. You know, there's this whole thing about women empowerment in whatever field they're in. But again, it's like, you have to see both sides. Like, he is speaking, like this guy is speaking for women, right? You know? And it's like, I don't know if I can agree with his point, because he's just speaking for me. Like, okay, well, what if I don't feel that way? You know, I don't know. I just don't get like this whole blaming the whole patriarchy collective thing, because there's, you know, patriarchy, matriarchy, they're supposed to work together. They're all supposed to create the balance and, you know, harmony and all that amongst the world. And at the end of the day, it's like, there's the, you know, like the patriarchy, right? Like, we see that as like in traditional sense, like the guy is the provider, the guy that goes to work, he's the one that hunts and gets food, and while the woman is the one that like takes care of the children and like makes the home beautiful. And, you know, and I just don't see where this whole patriarchy thing.
Yeah, everything is a utility. Everything can be said to be an objectification. Okay.
Yeah,
I want the man. With
I mean, I can objectify a guy too. You know?
There's nothing more objectifying than looking at a man for his money, for example.
Yeah, you know, like,
and women will openly admit that that's what they want. and not even bat an eyelash. After talking about how they're oppressed and objectified, they're like, yeah, I need to find me. I need to get the bag. I need to get me.
Yeah, I mean, like I've been in situations where like a guy picks me up and I'm like, oh, that's his car. You know, like I've had those moments. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, but like, is that me objectifying the guy? You know?
Again, I don't care what you do with the fact that you're in the room. I just want to make sure these idiots out there, to the degree to it, and not you people listening, okay? I'm talking about the lowest common denominator, the sheep that likes to complain about sheepishness. It's like, dude, you're here, okay, in this room, objectifying everybody, objectifying everything all the time. You pick one particular thing that you don't like, and you call it this silly word, objectification, right? And it's supposed to be bad. But your judgments, your preferences, right, are from the holy heavens, right? Everyone else's judgments and preferences are objectification, right? There is a woman, okay? I like her the way she looks, right? Where does that come from?
Exactly.
It's patriarchy, apparently, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if you want the sweat of his labor and all these kind of things, which are more more like tool-like things, right? Then it's not objectification. In other words, fine. We're going to all objectify each other. We're all going to negotiate. It's all open market out here. Here's what you're bringing to the table. Here's what I'm bringing to the table. Here's what I want. Here's what I don't want, right? If you're going to be dealing with certain types of people. And then sheep keep bumping their heads into each other, complaining about sheepish stuff, is what we don't want over here. But it seems like time has been going by rather quickly, Joan. How are we doing on time?
It is. We're at hour and 17 minutes. Yeah. No, I'm looking at the comments. People are getting riled up here. It's kind of funny, actually.
Well, what you got? What you got? Any particular comments you want to respond to, react to, highlight?
It's just funny how people like think, oh, because I'm married to a white tall guy, that I'm delusional.
You're delusional? Oh, they don't.
Yeah,
nobody wants tall guys anymore.
I know, right? Hey, I could have married you, Ike. You're a white tall guy.
Hey, okay. So what are they exactly? Okay, so let me see if I get this here. There's the whole idea of people not being able to speak because of experience. In other words, if we're talking something that's particularly experiential, well, the Black woman's experience, the X experience. Let me put the most stark example. If you were not in a concentration camp, right? I don't think you can really speak on it, right? That kind of a thing. So I like to give legitimacy to any kind of a view, any point. So the legitimacy, credence is given to this thing of experiential talk by looking at the concentration camp example. And then everything else just kind of flows from there. Okay. The fact that you were brown in Baltimore, I think is really common. It's not like a concentration camp, right? Let's say. But so people are telling you, okay, you're privileged, right? Probably lighter than the average Filipino out there. And
I can get pretty dark, trust me.
A tall white man. How dare you say anything?
I know, exactly. How dare I say anything? Yeah. Again, I'm up the mountaintops. I see a person for their soul, but who cares about that, right? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how I met the guy. It doesn't matter what how I ended up marrying him. If he's a white guy and I'm an Asian woman, there's something wrong with that, yeah. See, again, everybody has their own opinion. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. They don't know the whole story, but again, people are going to come up with their own ideas. Like people come up with their own, ideologies of like, oh, who this person should be with because of the way they look like, like.
Married to white guys, getting interesting. Okay, so shout out to
Aaron B. Doesn't matter if you're Black or white.
Aaron B is our equal opportunity guy where he gets it. He's like, hey, you know what? He understands that if you take certain parts from Keisha, put it over here in this other part, and take this part from this, like people like exotic, people like these kinds of, generally speaking. Again, that aisle, the standard beauty aisle, there's not a lot of shopping going on in there. And there are many, many, many aisles in the shop of hot and beautiful, right? That you can work. You can work all the miles. And by the way, 2/3 of our ancestors are women. Majority of men actually don't get to reproduce. So when it comes to the chance of putting your seed out there, it's mainly a man problem, or getting into the next generation, if you will. It's mainly a man problem. It's not like, oh, women are having issues procreating. If you want to procreate, you can procreate, as a woman. But it's not a procreation. It's about feeling like you are the standard of beauty on the billboard. Which, by the way, back to that woman that I was playing devil's advocate on behalf of.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing I would tell her is, look, you're just a selfish bastard. You just want to be on the billboard, right? At the end of the day, you just want to be in the magazine. Isn't that what you want? Okay? And I'm going to ask for another one on the chat. Everybody talking about, oh, the colorism and the white standards and, fat acceptance, this and that, blah, 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 blah. What do you want at the end of the day? Let me get a one if it makes sense that you just want to be on the billboard. You just want to be in the magazine. You just want everybody looking at you. And this is no shade. This is simple. People want attention. This is not new. It's a question of just admitting the truth. Once you admit the truth, then you can relax. You can go out there and get what you want. Go ahead and get your attention, get your money, get your status, get your power, get what you want, right? But don't act like you don't want it and act like, anyways, all that bullshit. Now, we're really going to try to give you the last word, Joan.
Oh, man.
Something else was mentioned, speaking of reactions in the chat. Somebody said, kind of love me for me versus versus what I look like. Okay. People have a very weird way of drawing the line between what is them and what is not them, right? The things that are judged favorably in society, they consider them. Let's say my personality, or the fact that I have this degree from this college, or I have this accent, right? And I have this particular set of experiences because I grew up in Germany and I'm cultured, whatever it may be. But if it's some kind of attribute about you stuck on your face, like your ugly nose, for example, right?
Yeah.
That's not you anymore, It's like, oh, you gotta love me for me. What's your nose? I think your nose. Oh, my God. Anyways, you either get my sense of humor or you don't. But the idea of the sense of humor here is to stick you in this room where you're not escaping. No, you're here. Your nose is you, just like your degree may be you, or your money. In other words, people find it easy. Okay, they think they could play this weird game of, my money is me, but my nose is not me. And my clothes are me on Tuesdays, but get the hell out of here, okay? Identity is constructed, okay? And you cannot play this weird identity game all over the place. Not for those of us who are watching you anyways, right? When Joan is up in the mountaintop watching you, she knows what the sheep are playing, okay? While the sheep are there, like, you guys, the sheep are just doing sheep stuff, and everything that goes on in sheep land is because of the actions of sheep, no one else, right? So that whole thing of what is you, what is me versus what's not me. Oh, my personality is me, but my nose is not me. But if my nose was great, though, if my nose was the standard, you best believe my nose is me. Is that right, Joan?
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah.
We'll give you the last word, Joan. Let's give you the last word.
Okay. Well, so what's the moral of the lesson here, right?
What's the moral of the story here? And anything you want to react to from the comments? Yeah, we got standards. The standards are by a particular dominant culture. If the dominant culture is bad, then the standards are bad. Like if it's white, then everything is racist because you cannot have white standards.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, people just they judge everybody by the way they look. They judge themselves. They judge people who are maybe like them, but then, do something else. You can't avoid it, and there's not really a solution to, this toxic standard of beauty. It's really comes down to you just accepting what you look like. You just got to accept what you look like and just learn to embrace yourself for who you are. I mean, it's not always easy. I mean, I can't speak for everybody, obviously, but at the end of the day, you have to accept the way it is, and you figure out how you navigate your world through this standard of beauty. I mean, it is what it is. You just have to, find ways where you're not offended, or you're not hurt, or you're not allowing other people's standard of beauty to control how you're going to live your life. You have a choice. You have a choice. You can always change your perspective. Interesting.
So, I think that's a good place to park it. I was gonna share a little bit extra of something else about the point that I made because we're trying to be more relatable, Joan. Isn't that the
Yeah.
that's the mission, to be more relatable and to be kind of out there like that. I could let me see if I can find something here real quick. Let me see. Da. You know what, Joan? Your years of being in the show business is gonna come in handy now because you're gonna interact with the chat while I find this little thing I'm looking to share. You're gonna like say hi to Aaron B and read stuff, and yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, let's read stuff. Let's see. What did Aaron B say? What was the last Aaron? No, he's funny. I like that guy. He's so easygoing, he just, like takes it as it is, What was the last thing you pulled out? Women look at men's income is how men look at their appearance beauty. Yeah, that is true.
You agree with that?
I mean, yeah, totally. That's just the way it is. There is this, I don't know what there was this image I saw of this woman. She's like a tribal leader somewhere like Mongolia or something like that. And like, according to today's beauty standards, she's considered ugly as, but I guess she was wealthy. She ran the tribe and like men were all over her, but because she was a leader. But like, if you look at her, she's short, kind of like overweight, has like really thick eyebrows. Have you seen that before? I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but
No, I haven't seen that one. No.
Yeah, it was really interesting. But again, it really, like, standards of beauties have changed like throughout the centuries. Like there's always something that's going. I mean, like, what is it? Like the guy showed in the timeline, like the whole Twiggy thing, and then now it's all about the big butts and boobs. It's like what's going to be next? It's going to be really interesting to see where the standard of beauty goes next. But at the end of the day, you got to live your life. You just got to do what you got to do. I mean, it's harder for people in the entertainment industry because we obviously are constantly like being judged by our image, but it is what it is. And you do the job, you slap on some makeup and you wear a cool jacket and there you go.
Indeed. Okay, let's look at this. Let's see. Let me share my screen here. So, ladies and gentlemen, because we're talking sometimes. So Joan was accused of, okay, well, how can you speak on certain things when you don't understand certain experiences? And I try to kind of force the conversation to be, hey, everybody is playing these games of objectification, so on and so forth, and your middle lanes to play, and then you're just trying to be in the billboard and the magazine and keep everybody honest and so on and so forth. So, and I also mentioned too that, hey, some people may say, hey, it's easy for you to say certain things, Ike, because X, Y, and Z, right? And they're like, okay, well, all these things, generally people like you and things are calling attention to you. Does this, whatever, status, this, that, blah, blah, blah. And that it all, and I mentioned that, look, these things are double-edged swords, okay? Things that can affect you in a good way and things that can affect you in a shall we say, not so good way. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do one on myself here, where somebody, I think someone took a picture of me on YouTube from Instagram and put it on YouTube and did some things to it, and then also added some other things to a very interesting thumbnail.
Okay.
What?
Oh God.
Well, you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
You ready?
I'm ready.
So, where you guys like, whatever, super chat Jesus can be like, look, okay, these kinds of things can happen. Let me go ahead and share this. You see that?
Who did that? That's hilarious.
You see, so look, these things are always double-edged swords, right? So again, as I mentioned before, I was like, oh, okay, cool. You're gonna stand out at that party. You show up and you're this 6'4" albino black guy, right? It's gonna be something different. However, you must know that a lot of times it's a double-edged sword. And what I'm showing you on the screen here, obviously, it's nothing shall we say, new to me, that is, right? Because you grow up, and as soon as kids are able to speak, you realize, oh crap, I'm different from them, number one. And then number two, they're mean, right? They're mean to you and they say all kinds of things. I don't know why I look Chinese though. Like they did you notice that? Is there a Chinese-izer thing on
Yeah, I don't know. Like the cartoonified, they Chinesified you.
cartoonified, Chinesified, and also gorillafied me over to the right with my fellow gorilla albino brother over there, out there in these hot streets of sub-Saharan Africa. But why did I show that? Well, I'm showing that to emphasize and illustrate the point that you are dealt certain cards, and life does not owe you understanding or fairness.
Right.
And that if you think that somebody that you may be looking in a particular position and saying, oh, well, they just have this X, Y, and Z, and it's always been like this, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you never even know up till today the ways in which those things you see as advantages to them are indeed or could be used or wielded. So ultimately, then you have to then rise up to the mountains, right? And be like, hey, that thing, that's been there, done that, seen and experienced, and nothing new there. And all is fair. And therefore, whether it be this particular standard that says, okay, it's light skin with a particular kind of figure, or it's darker, thicker, full of lips, and you're not that particular aspect or that particular kind, trust me, as I say again, in that shop of hot and beautiful, first of all, you get to decide, and you get to decide which mix. Tonight I'm going to be hot, tonight I'm going to be whatever it may be. There are many aisles, and the standard beauty aisle is not what many people are going for. So, ladies and gentlemen, you just keep it pushing, and I'm going to give you the last word again, Joan.
Last word again. Oh my God. Yeah, we're gonna cartoonify Ike. That's the last word. Cartoonify Ike. Make a video about him. That's what we're gonna do. Now, last word again. Okay, unfortunately, society has been built up a certain way, but we don't have to participate in these standards that
they want to know how you
built
get
up.
a tall white man.
Huh? What?
I say they want to know how you get a tall white man.
How did I get a tall white man? Okay, I just met him. That's what happened. Okay,
wow.
And we had a connection.
Look how privileged she is.
I know. We just met. We had a connection. He's a musician as well. I play drums. He plays guitar. Perfect. Did it have anything to do with him being white? I don't know.
Indeed. So yeah, you just you gotta be a dope ass percussionist and impress the tall white men with your drum skills. They like rhythm.
Exactly. Yep.
It's something they lack.
Yes.
They admire rhythm a lot. All right, ladies and gentlemen. All right, crazy Aaron B in the house. When things work out, he's entertaining, but he's also quite annoying. Okay, Aaron B, I love you like a little brother, but make sure you keep your cool out there in these YouTube streets, because be nice, especially in this channel with our guests. You are a host. You got the wrench. You don't want me to take it away from you again. Be nice to our guests. That's all we're asking. That is all we're asking. And Joan approves of you, so that you can take that one.
Oh yes.
Maybe you can put that one in the spank bank. Oh my God, is that wrong? Joan is a married woman. But,
hey, he's cool. He just takes it as it is. He has a good time. He's not causing any trouble really. He's just having a good time.
Not pushy about it. He's like he wants Joan, but he'll never get her, and he's cool about it.
See, acceptance,
all right.
Acceptance. It's all about acceptance.
We are out. Peace.
in the den of iniquity. Vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment. What's a pity? Tomorrow never certain. What was behind the curtain? The face of evil smirking with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble that either pop or topple. Many will fall and stumble. Let the dozers gather rubble from LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso. Cannons could reach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest and the righteous in